together. So for those whom maybe this is the first time in a synagogue, we are feeling all the tension of the world around us, but we really welcome you here with joy and just delight that you're here, whether you're a regular, whether you are a visitor. So we begin with Shalom Aleichem, which in your little book, is it in Resold?
Yes.
Great.
Page 4. Did you want to start with Hine Matov or with Shalom Aleichem? Hine Matov I don't think is in the book.
Okay, that's what I meant. Did I say Shalom Aleichem?
Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
So welcome everyone, an invitation to set an intention for how you need or would like this little rest of Shabbat, whether you're used to marking a rest, of having a moment of unplugged time, whether this is new for you. We're really leaning into the idea of being at home. So, and you are very much in our home. So we love to sing Shalom Aleichem before we light the Shabbat candles. You can find that if you have it in your paper Sidurim, your paper prayer books, on page 6 or page 4, because there is a different variety of the books. And feel free to just settle in to the mood of the moment as we get ready to welcome Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Orchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Li l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech Malachei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So for those who are streaming in, this is your moment. Decide where you're lighting your Shabbat candles, decide where you want to be. I'm really conscious that every Shabbat at the moment brings a kind of fractured moment of fear of what it means to be a congregation at prayer. A few weeks ago, there was an attack that was stopped in a mosque in Manchester, but as everyone was arriving for evening prayers, for the iftar, someone inside their bag had a weapon, and luckily it was averted. And of course today we're really feeling so much love for Temple Israel in Michigan, a fellow Reform Progressive Synagogue, probably known, I don't know, David, if you know the rabbis there. You do. So I can only imagine. I was in touch with Lisa, our shared friend, who just said, I feel sick that this is happening here. And I think it takes a lot to show up in religious community when there is so much antagonism around. And so I thank you for coming, and I reassure you that we have robust security at the door, and you arrived before the security arrived, but we are really understanding that vigilance does not in any way interfere with the welcome that happens inside the building. So I couldn't be happier to invite my really good friend, your Dr. Shana Sippy. She and I were at Harvard Divinity School together, and all these years later, it's just such a dream, as we keep saying to each other, we don't just have to see each other once, we can make plans for the following week. So during the service, Shana and I will be in conversation, because this week, this Sabbath, in the UK is known as Refugee Shabbat. And all synagogues across the spectrum of Orthodox, Progressive, Conservative are really celebrating the work that we do, both in terms of the stories of immigration in our own congregations, but also how involved we've been in settling refugees from other places of danger. So we are really proud of Refugee Shabbat, and maybe all the more so as we walk this tightrope between vigilance, resisting fortress-style synagogues, and yet at the same time knowing the world that we're in. So I couldn't be more delighted that you're lighting Shabbat candles for us, Shana. So we generally stand for Shabbat candles. After.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Really welcome. Lawyer's going now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, over to you.
So, you can all have a seat. This is a song that I love to teach, and I've started teaching to our community as well. It's great if you don't know any Hebrew, because two of the parts don't involve any Hebrew. And the song is Lo yisagoy el goy cherev, lo yimedu od milchama. And the words translate to, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, no more shall they practice war. So it feels very fitting at this time that we sing. We sing a lot about peace, especially on Shabbat, and the song feels especially fitting now. So there's three parts. Two of them are very, very simple, and then the third one has some words. So there will be a part for all of you, regardless of how confident you're feeling. We'll do them all together, one at a time, and then everyone can sort of pick the part they feel drawn to sing, and we'll sing it all together. So first part, very easy, goes. I think if you know it and you want to jump in and sing it with me, do that. Otherwise, I think we're going to have A-O-O-A over here, Li-Li-Li's over here, and then I'll sing part 3 if you want to sing along with me. Sing along with me.
So we're really singing for peace, aren't we? Mm-hmm.
We'll start with A-O, and then we'll add in.
Beautiful, Yesha Koach. So now we sing Lachadodi, and for the very last verse, if you want to, we stand and face the door. Lachadodi was a song, a piyut, like a hymn that was written by Shlomo Alkabatz in the Middle Ages, 15th century. Probably in the north of Israel is where they all gathered, these more mystical rabbis after. And it really talks about Shabbat being an anthropomorphized, almost like a bride. So between the Jewish people and Shabbat, and God is looking. So in a way, it's like a really good opportunity to just think, what do I need rest from? How do I need to celebrate this? And then for that last verse, we stand and welcome anyone who hasn't yet come in, and we welcome them into the service. So 91 if you're using this Siddur, or either page 9 or page 8 if you're using the different versions of the paper ones. B'nei Shabbat mikabela, lehadodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat mikabela. Shamot v'zachor v'dibor echad, ishmi'anu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shenu tiferet v'letfilah. to the Baruch Hu, having warmed each other up, having welcomed Shabbat, we now go into our evening prayer. The passing of seasons, of night and day and night, as we offer just the final blessing, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravi. We praise you, whose word makes evening fall.
Avat olam Beit Yisrael, Amkavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shachbeinu v'kumeinu, nasiach bechukecha, v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha, u'b'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, ve'orech yameinu, u'vahem negei yomam v'layla, yomam v'layla.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, where we talk of love that exists in our communities. So the Shema is the closest thing we have to a watchword of faith, even though actually it's a verse from Torah, from Bible, from the first 5 books of the Bible, in fact the last book, Deuteronomy. And famously, congregations have a different way, their minchag, their custom, whether to stand for the Shema or sit. And the liberal movement, of which this synagogue is one, which is very close ally to the Reform movement, initially it was like, of course you stand for something as important as that. But now I really see that we all kind of lean into what feels right, of where you can carve out that moment. So we're going to sing it in Hebrew and in English, and then we'll read it again in English. You'll see that it is not only about love, but about carving out passageways through your life that you can choose how you're looking, and for us to create these Jewish passageways in our life. So Shema is on page 94 or page 12.
Shema which I command you shall be on your hearts, and you shall teach them to all your children, and you shall talk of them when you're sitting in your house, when you're walking by the way, lying down and getting up, and you shall write them
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, v'chol levavecha, v'chol nafshecha, v'chol mo'odecha, v'hayu hadabarim ha'ele, asher anochi matzavacha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'aleftecha v'derech, u'v'shotbecha uv'kumecha, u'kashatam lo'ot al yadecha, v'hayu l'totafot beinenecha, u'kaftam amuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. So let's sit down. I love sharing that when my children were little, I would sing the version of the Debbie Friedman English version to them as they went to sleep. And when they would have sleepovers, they would have to call me on the phone to sing it over the phone for them. That is the power of the Shema. So we continue by reminding ourselves not to forget this.
Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
So as we recall, full of joy, we sang together at the shore of the sea, of witnessing the miracle of the sea parting, of leaving Egypt, of the moment of redemption. And we try hard to extrapolate into our own lives other moments of miraculous happenings that we've experienced. Mi chamocha.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef eleh.
V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch ata Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, lehamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leShalom, lehamidenu malkeinu lechaim.
We praise you, O God. May your sheltering peace descend on us and all who dwell on earth. So we stand for the tefillah, the standing prayer, 3 times a day. A traditional Jew might offer this. And the standing prayer replaces animal sacrifice in the temple, allowing us to see that migration of how Judaism changed. So I'm calling on Rabbi David Wirtschafter, who you know as Shana's husband, and I as a dear colleague and friend, to give us a quick meditation before this prayer from Rabbi Dr. Abraham Joshua Heschel, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be for a blessing, who wrote particularly about prayer and how it can feel familiar and at home and fresh and open. And David, I'll let you share the words. Yeah, if you stand here, I think you capture the microphone and the camera.
All things have a home. The bird has a nest. The fox has a hole. The bee has a hive. The soul without prayer is a soul without a home. Weary, sobbing, the soul, after roaming through a world festered with aimlessness, falsehoods and absurdities, seeks a moment in which to gather up its scattered life, in which to divest itself of enforced pretensions and camouflage, in which to call for help without being a coward. In his cottage, even the poorest man can bid defiance to misery and malice. The cottage may shake, the wind may blow through it, the storms may enter it, but there is where the soul expects to be understood. Just as the body, so is the soul in need of a home. Everybody must build their own home. Everybody must guard the independence and the privacy of their prayers.
Thank you, David. We're on page 97, and if you are in the paper versions, 15 or 17.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitei latecha. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi agitei latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah,
El HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol,
V'zocher Haskevot v'Imahot,
U'mevii Gula Livnei Bneihem, L'man Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Oseh U'Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai,
Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah,
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai,
Mechaye Meitim et Harav leHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach u'Morid HaGeshem,
Mazriach HaShemesh U'Morid HaTal, Mechakel Chaim B'Chesed,
Mechaye Meitim
Berachamim Rabim,
Somech Noflim Ve'Rofech Olim,
Umatir Asurim, Umkayem U'Munato Lishanei Afar, Lichamocha B'Gvurot,
Umido Melech, Melech Megid u'Mechaye,
Umatzliach Yeshua,
V'Ne'eman
Natan L'Chayot Metim, Baruch atah Adonai, L'Chayei HaMetim. Kadosh atah v'nora shamecha v'ein lanu Eloah mibaladecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. So now we mark Shabbat, being here for Shabbat together. And Sarah Wendy will call on us to sing joyfully, fully with her.
So V'Shamru, our song for Shabbat.
17 or page 20.
V'Shamru
Shamru b'nei Yisrael,
et HaShabbat,
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
B'nei Uven,
בני ישראל,
B'nei Yisrael,
אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל
et HaShabbat,
לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
כי
Ham Barit Olam. Baruch Atah Adonai Makadesh HaShabbat. We thank you, we praise you, we acknowledge the holiness, the difference, the sanctity of Shabbat. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, O God, whom alone we worship in reverence. So the penultimate paragraph of the tefillah is our paragraph of thanksgiving, of appreciation. Modim anachnu lach literally means we give thanks. So I just invite you, you can turn to someone next to you, or you can just think for yourself something you are particularly grateful for this week. Someone, something may have happened, something may have not happened, just so that we have true kavanah, spiritual direction, when we read these words together. So just take a moment to think what it is, and then we will read Modim Anachnu together. Modim Anachnu Lach, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור, ונודה לך נספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shemcha, ulacha na'eh lohodot. So as we offer our evening prayer for peace, I invite all of us to just shout out, say out loud, say quietly, places in the world that we feel particularly hoping there will be an element of peace. And of course, as you've probably learned already, the word shalom in Hebrew not only means peace, but means wholeness, integrity. And I think about that always, that actually to have peace and ease in our lives, we need to feel that things are a little integrated or coherent to be able to have that feeling. So I don't know if anyone wants to name anywhere before I do. Anyone? I appreciate that we might be shy. Thank you. Iran, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, Michigan, really. Minnesota, we have carried on doing that since the extraordinary news came to us. Ukraine, yeah, we said that, but quietly up here. Anywhere else? Sudan. Anywhere else anyone wants to add? When I was a student rabbi, I went to my first pulpit or congregation, as we call it here, and when I did that and said, where shall we pray for? A child said, Watford, which is a town north of London, which really means a lot to those of us who live here to wonder, why was he praying for Watford? Emma. But does it really need peace more than anywhere else in the world? I'm not sure. Okay, so we offer, we hold all these places so acutely in our hearts for those who have family in Israel, friends or family in Iran, really everywhere. Rabbi John Rayner, who was one of the architects of liberal Judaism that we have, who edited this Siddur, the one I'm holding, he famously wrote this amazing paragraph about peace. He says, it's not enough to pray for peace. You have to negotiate and compromise and give up what you think is important and feel bad for other people as well as yourself, that it is really hard work, peace. And so as we think of that, we sing Shalom Rav, which in your book it's on page 18 or 23, and if you're following here, page 101.
Shalom Rav al
Israel Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel Amha Tasim Leolam.
Ki ata hu melech Adon
Lehol HaShalom.
Ki ata hu melech Adon
Lehol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Israel Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Israel Amha Tasim Leolam.
V'tov
Beinecha levarech et Amha Yisrael.
B'kol eitu v'kol
Shah bishlomecha.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
Shalom Rav Israel Amha Tasim Leolam.
Tasim Leolam.
Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. So we take a moment now to just step outside of the liturgy, and we're just going to do a tiny bit of Torah study and conversation, Shana and I. So I am going to ask David, might you pass around or find some willing students to just pass around these pages, and Shana's going to swap seats with Sarah Wendy. Sarah Wendy can sit with Sylvia, which will be like a big treat to sit with Sylvia in the service, right? So, yes, exactly. And very rarely am able to do that with my family. So we love to have a tiny taste of Torah. David, you might need a helper. Maybe, yeah? So it just might it might go faster. So if anyone wants to jump up and help David pass around. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you. So to just do a tiny bit, just really mindful that this is you visiting a synagogue, visitors, us in our synagogue, really marking Refugee Shabbat. There should be lots of pages, enough for everyone. Here's one for Shana. And so just so that all of us have a chance to go home after synagogue tonight with a tiny bit of Torah. So does everyone have over there? No, Leon doesn't have over there. Jasmine, Leon with the hat over there. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly let us know. It's a double portion of Torah. It's the very last portion of the book of Exodus this weekend. And these final moments, there are lovely moments in this double portion, including, very unusually, verses that talk about women particularly. So we've been told about people who have Chachmat Lev, who are wise of heart, skilled. But this portion particularly talks of women who are wise of heart and who use that wisdom and skill to do a lot of weaving. And I think we really inherited, in the 1990s, we were studying together, but religious feminism, which exploded at the end of the 80s, really used that metaphor of weaving a great deal. And actually, this weekend, I'm really reminded of it, and I'm reminded of Judith Plaskow and Rosemary Radford Ruther and all the feminist theologians that burst into our lives and use the metaphor of weaving together, and it really comes from here. But this is at the end of the portion. So there's Hebrew here, Vayechas ha'anan et ohel moed, uchvod Adonai maleh et hamishkan. So a cloud covered the little sanctuary, the tent of meeting inside the desert, where they are used as their sanctuary, and the presence of God filled it. And then it goes on. Moses could not enter the tent of meeting because the cloud had settled upon it and the presence of God filled it. But when the cloud lifted from the tabernacle, the Israelites knew that they could set out on their various journeys. They could go, b'chol masehem, on all the journeys they needed to keep on going through the desert. For over the tabernacle, a cloud of God rested by day and a pillar of fire by night, in view of all of the Israelites throughout their journey. So they knew when home was expected that they needed to stay still because God was inside and the cloud was there, and when it was okay for them to journey. And I think this theme, and I loved what Rabbi David brought us, of the idea of everyone, every animal has a home, and actually prayer is like of what we need for our soul's home. So I thought it was really good to learn a bit of Torah that reminded us of home, movement and home. And for us on Refugee Shabbat, of thinking about migration, of thinking about that human dignity that everyone deserves, a home of safety. And in Judaism, we talk of mikdash me'at, of home being like a small sanctuary. That's how we refer to the temple, mikdash me'at. And a sanctuary, home being a sanctuary, is somewhere where you feel safe, somewhere where you feel safe and comfortable and where you can rest. And I really feel that in our conversations, and the heightened conversation often in this country that focuses on the small boats that come from France and too many people coming, and of course we forget at what risk they take to come to find a home that is comfortable. Shana, over to you.
I was thinking being in London with my students has allowed me to see the immigrant communities of Britain with new eyes. And I traveled here my whole childhood to see one pocket of family that had immigrated here from India. But until I began to study colonialism and religion and migration, I wasn't cognizant really about how every neighborhood in London is really animated and been sort of vibrantly shaped by different waves of immigrants, the food, the music, the languages, and the religious communities that inhabit the city. And so, and then, I think about what you're struggling with, the sort of push against immigration here, and then the intense nativism that undoubtedly you've all heard about in the US, where, people are just afraid for their lives, that they will be detained, that they'll be subjected to violence, that they will be deported, that they will lose their families, be separated from them, because people want to fortify borders and keep others out. And I know you've been talking a lot about not creating fortresses when we're afraid, and so I think that's been profound. And as people are losing their homes with wars raging everywhere and running from bombs and violence, and nativist politicians are seeking to kind of push out everybody else, I think what truly matters as you think about refugees, I was really struck by the passage that you shared from Hirsch. Do you want to read that passage?
Yeah, maybe we'll read it together. So Samson Raphael Hirsch was a German rabbi at the end of the 19th century, and he is considered to be the father, the ancestor of modern Orthodoxy in this country. And his words only got translated into English in the 20th century. But he was really a fantastic thinker, and we found a little extra. Well, I found this extract from his writings that were written in Germany in 1880s, and this particular passage only translated in the 1960s here. But amazingly, and you've all got it on your sheet so you can take it home with you, but nothing thrills me more than finding something of former times, former decades and generations that speaks with such prescience to the moment that we're in now. So I'll just read half, and you, Shana. Let your house not be closed and sealed, he wrote, only for yourself and your household, to be a place of rest and peace only for yourselves. Rather, Let it be open for the benefit of the desolate poor people, for the hungry, for the thirsty, and for all who seek shelter and refuge for themselves.
You should happily and lovingly bring in any guest who has no other letter of introduction that would recommend him except for that which comes from his being a creation of the Omnipotent, a son of our Father in heaven.
So obviously you'll excuse his language,
Gendered
language, but we will forgive a 19th century writer for that. But I think we spend our lives as contemporary progressive Jews talking about that every human being, the equality of every human being born in the image of God. But Tselem Elohim is how the book of Genesis begins and describes the creation of the human being. And yet here he is in 19th century Germany capturing that. The only letter of introduction that would recommend him is being a creation of the Eternal One. So it just felt so beautiful for tonight.
Yeah, and
Last word to you, Shana.
Oh, I think the idea of that, of course, speaks so powerfully to the Exodus 22:20, the idea that you should not wrong a stranger, oppress a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. And according to the rabbis and the Talmud, the Torah admonishes this treatment of strangers to not oppress them no fewer than 36 times, which of course is like a special number according to Gematria, because 18 means life, so 36 is double life. And there's stuff about sort of giving somebody a second chance, a second life when they are a stranger and you welcome them. But both that verse and the other, the idea that it's not just empathy, it's not just because of empathy that you're supposed to that you're commanded to do this more than anything else, but Ramban in the 13th century Catalonian Jewish philosopher, said that those for whom the historical memory of suffering is inadequate to push you to welcome the stranger, and it's a warning we need so badly today. If that's not going to stir a compassionate response to the stranger for you, he says that some people would say like, oh, it's God who was supposed to intervene. That's why the Israelites were welcomed. It was because God intervened. And he says no, right? Why was this commandment here? The commandment doesn't say welcome the stranger and God's going to intervene and help you welcome them, or God's going to save them. It's very clear, according to the passage, that he says this is about the human obligation to protect and care for one another. And making it that it's all of our obligation to make it possible for everyone to have a home in which they feel safe, in which they can sort of create the sort of dreams of their lives.
So it's been in our tradition a long time. Thank you, Shana. And so what we offer now is Oseh Shalom. As we finish our prayers, you can find Oseh Shalom on page 19 or 23. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, Yaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Oseh Shalom b'mroma, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adam. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. So we go towards the end of the service. If you have one of these Sidurim, I'm going to ask you to turn to page 213, where we read in English the words of the artist Judy Chicago. She wrote these back in the 1970s, talking about the world that we all want to create. And we use this in place of the traditional prayer, Aleinu, it is upon us, to really contribute and work towards making the world kinder. So we usually stand for this. If you have this book, then join either Sarah, Wendy, or I to read to each other responsively. And then all that has divided us will merge.
And then compassion will be wedded to power.
And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind.
And then both men and women will be gentle.
And then both women and men will be strong.
And then no person will be subject to another person's will.
And then all will be rich and free and varied.
And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many.
And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And then all will nourish the young.
And then all will cherish life's creatures.
And then all will live in harmony with each other and earth.
And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
So at this point in the service, we offer Kaddish. Kaddish is the prayer we say as we are recalling and remembering mourning a loved one. So this weekend, we continue to really pray and think about Guy Winchcombe, who died last week in Vietnam and whose family are caught in this limbo until his funeral at the end of the month, a beloved member of the liberal Jewish youth community. We think also of those whose yahrzeits, anniversaries of death, fall this Shabbat. David Boxer, partner of Wendy Coleman. Eric Brandon, father of Danielle Brandon Rocks. Hanny Lichtenstern, grandmother of Jackie Lichtenstern and Michael Lassman. Janie Lassman, mother of Lionel Lassman, grandmother of Michael Lassman. Rebecca Lesser, mother of Sheila King Lassman and grandmother also for Michael Lassman. Rebecca Wolfe, grandmother of Guy Wolfe. Roy Bartram Hood, father of Bobby Hood. Sally Levy, mother of Kathy Levy Romana. Sasha Princely, mother of Emma Princely. Stephen Kay, father of Deborah Porton. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for a blessing, and may those who recall and remember their loved ones be comforted just a little in their loss, as we say the words of Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah, bi'amah divrah chirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'hayachon v'yomechon, uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach le'olam al maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitaleh v'talal shemei dekudusha brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbahata da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. So we finish with another prayer for peace. Od yavor shalom aleinu. Those are all the words you need. Od yavor shalom aleinu. Shalom, salam, shalom Hebrew, salam Arabic. What's the other line? That
Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam.
Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. May there yet be peace in this world. Feel free to sit.
Od yavor shalom aleinu. Od yavor shalom aleinu. Od yavor shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavor shalom aleinu. Od yavor shalom aleinu. Od yavor shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam
Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Ojevo Shalom Aleinu, Ojevo Shalom Aleinu, Ojevo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Ojevo Shalom Aleinu, Ojevo Shalom Aleinu, Ojevo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So a tiny bit of stage management. Please, members of the synagogue, welcome our visitors tonight and make sure that everyone greets someone that they don't know or recognize after the service. Tables have been set up for this American group from which university? I forgot. Center College in Kentucky. In Kentucky, who are here learning for a semester with your teachers, and you are super welcome here. And Sarah Wendy and Ruti, and a dinner's been created for you, and 2 of our Bar Bat Mitzvah students are doing their tzedakah, their charity contribution project to the synagogue by looking after you tonight. And Sarah, Wendy and Ruti will be hosting you later. But right now, we are going to go for Kiddush into the small hall, everyone who knows where that is. And so we can greet each other and, just introduce